Welcome back to Edin Nuir. In this episode, we're going to cover probably the most necessary thing that you could ever have in the DM's toolbox. It's just a piece of trellis. In a recent episode of the DM's Craft, DM Scotty used a material for needlepoint, which is this stuff like a plastic, I think this might be made of acrylic or something, but just a mesh. It's really easy to cut. It can be a bit of a pain to take paint, depending on the paint that you're using, but that's what's been used as the grill for the trellis. He uses it as window screening, which I've also used. But what I also thought it would be quite cool to do is some trellis work, like the scatter that you could have just around a city, like just a divide, just to give it a little bit more flavour. These are a little bit taller than pieces that I'd normally make because they are quite tall, but you can semi-see through them. And that's optional in itself, which I'll get into at the end of the video as an option. So to make these, which I'm going to be making a few more of them, take a piece. This is, as per usual, it's a piece of balsa wood for me, but I would say double thickness corrugated cardboard would be just about the same. And then I've got my trusty 2mm drill bit, which is the right size for mounting cocktail sticks in things. You could also, if you were using cardboard, probably just pip this out with a knife, but because this is wooden, I don't want to end up splitting the wood. I'm using a drill bit, and so I'm just going to drill a hole, not even really measuring that amazingly. I'm going to drill a hole at either end, and then take this moment to plug in the glue gun. So now that's done, that is phase 1 complete. Phase 2 being a pair of posts, which may seem irrelevant, but for my construction method I wanted them in there. So all they are is cocktail sticks that have been cut to let's say 40mm, 35-40mm. So all I know is chop them out. I've just rounded them around a little bit as well, and I'm just going to take my full strength PVA glue. I'm going to dip just the ends of the cocktail sticks and wedge them in, just like that. Right, so now you end up with a really uninteresting looking thing. Anyway, so the next thing you want to do is, using that needlepoint mesh, is cut yourself a panel of it. For the purposes of mine, these panels are 55 by just over 45mm, and that's because they will sit pretty close between the two posts that I've just mounted. It will need a slight bit of trimming in the next part as well, but that's just using a pair of scissors or a knife, whatever you prefer. So while I'm waiting for my glue gun to get up to speed, I'll move on to the next component, which is the fascia board for it, just to make it look a little bit prettier. So this was just a shape. Obviously it needs some uprights to it, and then this was just I just decided that as a shape. And then just using a sharp knife, just scoring and then cutting the mount. So the first thing to do is mounting the mesh, letting that all cool down. Then just mounting this over the top of it. Nice and simple, and completely unnecessary. So there's the other two for another one later on. Usually I'd worry about trying to save balsa wood, but I've found somewhere that I can get an awful lot of it for not a lot of money, so I admit I am being a tad wasteful. So yeah, the balsa wood that I'm using at the moment is like 2mm thick, so it'd be like single stock corrugated cardboard. and then you would just use some hot glue and some. Oh, we've got a split. Don't worry about that. I can fix that. Yeah, that's the irrevocable downside to balsa wood, is occasionally that will just randomly occur. Where was I? Yeah, so yeah, if you were using corrugated cardboard, you could just cap up the ends with some hot glue or some cardstock, just to neaten it up a little bit. So I'm just trimming the top of the arcs. And my first order of beeswax with my glue gun will be to repair that which I just broke. Just like that. So that's the arcs done. So, bringing back the goalposts, I'll lay it over so you guys can see. And then all I did for the original one was, actually I don't know if I'll be able to show you the exact same way. Is there something I can prop this up on? Yes, of course there is. When in doubt, cardboard. All I did was I propped this actually over the edge of my table, but this cardboard's about the right height as well, and lined them up and applied hot glue. And that way you've got a good thick strong line. Yes, you could apply hot glue to the sticks and then try and line this up, but you don't have to this way. You can just leave it to do what it's doing, and then if it looks a little bit flimsy, you can flip this over and you can just apply it to the other side. Right, I'm just going to leave this to dry. I'm going to, and then I'm just going to reinforce it on the other side. I'll be back in a moment. I've jumped ahead slightly due to a technical hiccup with recording. So all I've done is the fascia boards that we cut out beforehand. I've gone and fitted those to the framework and the trellising. And then all I'm going to do is take my burnt umber paint and a pretty broad brush. Probably that should probably do it. Nope, that's a bit wiry. I had previously filmed this already, but a hiccup has caused me to re-record. So just watering it down ever so slightly, and then I'm just using that as my rough coat onto the all the wooden areas. Doesn't really matter if you get it on the trellis, because we will be painting that brown itself. It just might make certain areas a little bit darker than others, but adds more character. So once again, watering down the burnt umber. So giving this all over the place, and then when it comes to the actual plastic framework itself, you're going to want to use just neat paint. You won't want to water it down at all, because it can hamper it from actually sticking to the plastic. And then also painting the hot glue that you've used to fix the whole thing together. Just getting it in where you can. It probably would be a little bit more effective to have painted these panels before you assemble them, because that way you would have got it between all the divisions. There'd be no blank spaces. So that's the short version. Obviously that's the other side to paint, and then there's just it's going to take a few coats to get this to layer up properly on the plastic mesh, because as I said, paint can be a bit of a problem to adhere to it. It'll probably work out alright if you were to go and spray paint it, however I'm not going to go and do that. So there's that. That's the first stage of painting. Obviously I will be doing the rest of it. This was the one that I'd done for the original version of this video, and then in my grand state of non-preparedness, will now find the appropriate paint, which is the fleshy brown in the Games Workshop pot that I'm so fond of using. Then you're going to want to, I'm not even going to weather really, so I'm going to just change over to the English language. Just going to take some of that and just drag that around. It looks a lot lighter, but like a lot of paints, it's going to set differently to how it is when you brush it on. And all it's doing is picking up the wooden texture that's on there. You can sort of see this side I haven't done, this side I have. It actually looks a lot bolder on the camera now that I'm looking at it. And there is this. I've actually decided as well, since it's finished drying, that I want to and pick the, well, I've gone ahead and picked the trellis out with a khaki colour instead, just because I liked the difference between the, it looks more like it'd be like a birch fretwork than just the same wood over and over again. So there's that. The khaki was just a Vallejo khaki colour. You don't need very much of this at all, although it does help when some comes out of the tube. Just gonna make, I'm just speed running this because I'm in the middle of actually filming something else right now. I just had to go back and correct this. So yeah, it's just going to drag this across the surfaces of. Don't worry about getting right into the corners of things and whatever, because that can just be a little bit of shadowing, etc. And then I'm also going to, with what's left on the brush, just highlight some edges. And because the area that the environment that this is all going to be placed into, although it can be used in a lot of places, it's supposed to be very, very well lit. So there's the finished side of that. So that was a bit of a hodgepodge, but that was, for want of a better term, making trellis sections for your D&D game. And then these pieces can just be put side by side or at angle to each other to create partitions for it, areas. Players can see through them, or you could use some hot glue to weave up them, or some twine or something like that to weave up like climber plants. There's quite a lot of things that you could do with this. You could also just make these into like large planters. So there was that, and I'm going to go straight into making another video. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I'm going to try a bit more rapid fire with my video production in future, so I'll see you in the next one. Bye.